Ever wonder what it feels like to be doubted so hard you start questioning your own damn truth? My ladies, it's your old pal John Doe here, 58 and still kicking in the heart of New York, ready to spin a yarn that'll hit you right in the feels. Picture me, sipping cheap coffee, reminiscing with you gals, my favorite crew of wise, witty women who've seen it all. Tonight's tale's got heart, guts, and a kid who takes on the world's bullshit with nothing but courage. So, grab your wine, settle in, and let's dive into Unseen Heroes. Got a story about proving the haters wrong? Drop it in the comments. I'm all ears. And if you love these chats, hit that subscribe button. Let's keep the campfire burning. My ladies. The classroom smelled like dry erase markers and nervous anticipation. Malik Carter stood at the front, his small hands clutching a crumpled index card, his dark eyes fixed on the scuffed linoleum floor. At 10 years old, he was used to feeling out of place at Jefferson Academy, a private school in the manicured suburbs of Washington, D.C., where the kids were mostly the offspring of senators, CEOs, and old money. But today was different. Today, he had to talk about his dad's job from his Anderson's class assignment, and the weight of 24 pairs of eyes made his stomach churn. Malik cleared his throat, his voice barely above a whisper. My name's Malik Carter, and my dad, he works at the Pentagon. He's in cybersecurity, protecting government systems from hackers. A snicker rippled through the room, sharp and cutting. Tyler Whitman, a blonde kid with a trust fund and a permanent smirk, leaned back in his chair. Yeah, right, Malik. Your dad's probably mopping floors there. The class erupted in giggles. A wave of sound that crashed over Malik like ice water. His cheeks burned, and he gripped the index card so tight bent in half. He glanced at Miss Anderson, hoping for backup. But the teacher's honey blonde hair and designer blazer didn't hide the smug curve of her lips. At 45, she was a fixture at Jefferson, a 20-year veteran who taught the kids of two former presidents. Her voice, warm on the surface, but laced with steel, cut through the laughter. Oh, sweetie, she said, tilting her head like she was talking to a toddler. Let's not get carried away with tall tales. Maybe your dad works near the Pentagon, a janitor. Perhaps more laughter. Louder this time. Malik's best friend, Ethan Williams. A red-headed kid with a chipped front tooth, shot his hand up. Ms. Anderson, Malik's not lying. I've seen his dad's ID badge. That's enough. Ethan, Miss Anderson snapped, her smile tightening. Unless you want detention for disrupting class. Ethan's face flushed, and he slumped back in his seat, shooting Malik an apologetic look. Malik wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor, and never come back. He mumbled the rest of his presentation about firewalls and encryption, but the words felt hollow, drowned out by the memory of Tyler's smirk and Ms. Anderson's patronizing tone. When the bell rang, he shuffled back to his desk, avoiding everyone's eyes. Dude, screw Tyler. Ethan whispered as they grabbed their backpacks. He's just jealous because his dad's some boring real estate guy. Malik forced to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Doesn't matter. Nobody believes me. The rest of the week was a blur of whispers and sideways glances. Malik felt them in the hallways, where the polished marble floors and framed alumni photos screamed privilege. He felt them in the cafeteria, where the smell of burnt fries and ketchup hung heavy, and he sat alone at the end of a long table, poking at his food while Tyler and his crew laughed across the room. Even Ethan, loyal as he was, couldn't always be there as Dad had just lost his job at a factory, and Ethan was quieter than usual, carrying his own weight, at home. Malik tried to shake it off. His dad, Jonathan Carter, was at the kitchen table when he got back from school, scrolling through something on his tablet. Jonathan always looked sharp, even in a plain t-shirt and jeans straight-backed, eyes that missed nothing, like he was always scanning for threats. He glanced up as Malik dropped his backpack by the door. "Rough day." Champ Jonathan's voice was steady, warm, but there was an edge to it, like he already knew the answer. Malik shrugged, slumping into a chair. "Just school stuff." Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "Want to talk about it?" Malik hesitated. Then the words spilled out. "We had to present about our parents' jobs. I told them you work at the Pentagon, and they laughed. Ms. Anderson, too. She said I was making it up, like you're some janitor or something." Jonathan's jaw tightened, just for a second, but his voice stayed calm. "And what did you say?" "Nothing," Malik mumbled, staring at the table. "What's the point?" "They don't believe me." Jonathan leaned forward, his gaze locking onto Malik's. "People doubt what they don't understand. Son, sometimes. That's their problem, not yours." Malik nodded, but the words didn't erase the sting. "Why don't you ever come to school stuff? Dad like career day or whatever. Then maybe they'd get it." Jonathan's expression softened, but there was a flicker of something else regret. "Maybe. My job's complicated. You know that. But I'm proud of you for standing up there, telling the truth. That takes guts." Malik wanted to believe him, but the truth felt like a weight he couldn't carry. That night, as he lay in bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on his ceiling, he wondered if the truth even mattered when no one listened. A week later, the air at Jefferson Academy buzzed with anticipation. Parents' Day was a big deal, a chance for the school's elite families to network, show off, and remind everyone why their kids belonged here. Malik dreaded it. Ms. Anderson had pulled him aside after class the day before, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Malik, I hope you'll bring your father tomorrow," she'd said, her eyes glinting with challenge. It'd be so enlightening to meet him. Unless, of course, he's too busy with his Pentagon duties. Pentagon. She'd smirked, and Malik had felt his stomach twist. He hadn't told his dad about the invitation, too scared Jonathan would say no again. But that morning, Jonathan had surprised him at breakfast, dressed in a crisp black suit, his Pentagon badge clipped to his lapel. "Thought I'd drop by your school today," he said, casual as if he were grabbing coffee. "You cool with that?" Malik's eyes widened. "You're coming. For real?" Jonathan ruffled his hair. "For real. Let's show 'em what's what." The drive to school was quiet, Malik's nerves jangling like loose change. Jefferson's iron gates loomed ahead, the brick building behind them a fortress of privilege. As they parked, Malik noticed a line of luxury cars, BMW, Mercedes, a sleek Tesla dropping off kids in pressed uniforms. Jonathan's modest sedan stood out, but he didn't seem to care. He checked his phone, his face unreadable, then stepped out. "Ready?" he asked. his voice low but firm. Malik nodded, though his heart was pounding. Yeah, ready. Inside, the hallways were a circus of parents in power suits and pearls, chatting with teachers and snapping photos. Malik led Jonathan to room 112, where Ms. Anderson was holding court, her cream-colored blouse and navy skirt as pristine as ever. A small crowd of parents and students milled around. Tyler's dad, a real estate mogul in an Italian suit, already boasting about his latest deal. Ms. Anderson spotted Malik first, her lips curving into a satisfied smirk. She clearly thought he'd come alone, ready to admit defeat. Then her eyes shifted to Jonathan, taking in his tailored suit, his commanding presence, and finally landing on the pentagon badge gleaming on his lapel. The smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of disbelief. Malik couldn't help the note of triumph in his voice. Ms. Anderson, this is my dad, Jonathan Carter. He works at the Pentagon. Jonathan extended a hand, his smile polite but sharp. Ms. Anderson, I've heard a lot about you. She took his hand, her grip faltering. Mr. Carter, welcome to Jefferson Academy. It's lovely to have you. Thank you, Jonathan said smoothly. Malik tells me you've been teaching him about skepticism. I'm here to talk facts. The room went quiet, the chatter fading as parents and students turned to watch. Tyler's smirk froze, and Ethan's eyes lit up like it was Christmas morning. Ms. Anderson's composure, usually unshakable, cracked just enough for Malik to notice. Her cheeks flushed, and she gestured toward a chair. Please, join us, she said, her voice too high. We're just starting our Parents' Day activities. Jonathan nodded, taking a seat near the front. Ms. Anderson fumbled with her tablet, trying to regain control, but the air had shifted. Malik felt it a spark of pride, like a fire catching in his chest. His dad was here, real and undeniable, and no one could laugh now. Actually, Jonathan said, standing again, if it's all right, I'd like to say a few words. Malik's presentation got me thinking. Ms. Anderson blinked, caught off guard. Of course. Mr. Carter, the floor's yours. Jonathan stepped to the front, his presence filling the room. He wasn't loud, but his voice carried, steady and clear. I work in cybersecurity at the Pentagon. My job's about protecting our country from threats most people never see: hackers, data breaches, systems that could cripple us if they fail. It's not glamorous. No car chases, no spies like in the movies. Just a lot of code, coffee, and late nights. A few parents chuckled, but the students were riveted. Malik watched, his heart swelling, as his dad continued. What I've learned, Jonathan said, his eyes sweeping the room, is that trust matters. When you doubt someone without evidence, when you assume they're lying because they don't look like what you expect, you create blind spots. And blind spots are dangerous, whether you're securing a network or just trying to understand the kid sitting next to you. The words landed like a punch. Ms. Anderson's face went pale, her fingers tightening around her tablet. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, and even his dad stopped checking his phone. Malik felt a lump in his throat. Not just pride, but something deeper. A sense that his dad wasn't just defending him, but teaching everyone something they'd forgotten. Jonathan paused, his gaze softening as it met Malik's. I'm proud of my son for telling the truth. even when it was hard. That's more than most adults can say. The room was silent for a heartbeat. Then Ethan started clapping, loud and unapologetic. A few others joined, then more, until the applause filled the space. Malik's eyes stung, but he blinked hard, refusing to cry. Not here. Not now. Ms. Anderson cleared her throat, forcing a smile. Thank you. Mr. Carter, that was insightful. Shall we move on? Before Jonathan could respond. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, and Malik saw his dad's expression change harder, more focused, like a switch had flipped. Excuse me, Jonathan said, stepping toward the door. I need to take this. Government business. He slipped out, leaving a ripple of whispers in his wake. Malik watched through the classroom window as his dad spoke into the phone, his free hand making sharp gestures. Something was wrong. Malik could feel it, a knot tightening in his gut. Ms. Anderson clapped her hands, trying to regain control. All right, everyone, let's continue. Parents, please join your children at their desks. But Malik barely heard her. His dad's words echoed in his mind. Blind spots are dangerous, and so did the look on his face as he'd left. The truth had walked into the room today. But it had brought something else with it, something Malik couldn't name but felt in his bones. For the first time, he wondered if the truth might be more than he could handle. Hey, what's it like to be doubted just because of who you are? Drop your story in the comments below and let us know where you're reading from. If Malik's fight hit you where it counts, smash that subscribe button. We've got more real talk and stories that'll make you think twice coming your way. The cafeteria at Jefferson Academy was a battlefield of noise and clicks, the air thick with the smell of burnt fries and spilled ketchup. Malik Carter sat at the far end of a long table, his tray untouched, his eyes fixed on the plastic fork he was bending back and forth. It had been 3 days since Parents' Day, when his dad, Jonathan Carter, had walked into Ms. Anderson's classroom and shut down the doubters with a Pentagon badge and a speech that still echoed in Malik's head. Trust matters. Blind spots are dangerous. For a moment, Malik had felt like he could take on the world. But the world, it turned out, wasn't done with him. Yo, Malik, you gonna eat that burger or just stare at it? Ethan Williams slid into the seat across from him, his red hair a mess as usual. Ethan was the only one who hadn't treated Malik differently since Parents' Day. But even he seemed off lately, his usual grin replaced by a tired slump. Not hungry, Malik muttered, pushing the tray toward Ethan. You want it? Ethan shook his head. Nah. Man, Mom packed me a sandwich. Again. He hesitated, then lowered his voice. You okay? You've been, like, ghosting everybody. Malik shrugged, his eyes drifting to the other side of the cafeteria, where Tyler Whitman and his crew were holding court. Tyler's voice carried over the chatter, loud and mocking. Pentagon kid, huh? Bet his dad's just some desk jockey, not even a real big shot. The table burst into laughter, and Malik's stomach twisted. He'd hoped his dad's appearance would change things, make them see him differently. But instead of respect, he'd gotten a new nickname, Pentagon Kid, spat out like a curse. It followed him through the hallways, whispered behind his back in math class, scrawled in marker on his locker yesterday morning. He'd scrubbed it off before Ethan could see, but the word still burned in his mind. Screw 'em, Ethan said, following Malik's gaze. Tyler's just mad 'cause his dad's a sleazy real estate guy who smells like too much cologne. Malik forced a smile, but it felt like lifting a boulder. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. But it did matter. It mattered that Ms. Anderson, who'd gone pale when his dad showed up, now watched him like a hawk in class, calling on him for the hardest questions as if daring him to fail. It mattered that the other kids, even the ones who'd clapped for his dad, still looked at him like he didn't belong. And it mattered that his dad, the one person who could make it all make sense, was barely around. That night, Malik trudged into the kitchen, his backpack thudding against the floor. His dad was at the counter, chopping vegetables for dinner, the rhythmic thwack of the knife filling the silence. Jonathan Carter looked like he always did, calm, focused, his broad shoulders filling out a plain gray t-shirt. But Malik noticed the shadows under his eyes, the way his phone kept buzzing on the counter, ignored but impossible to miss. "Hey, champ," Jonathan said, glancing up. "How was school? Fine." Malik lied, slumping into a chair. He wanted to tell his dad everything: Tyler's taunts, Ms. Anderson's cold stares, the way he felt like he was drowning in a sea of doubt. But the words stuck in his throat, heavy and useless. Jonathan set the knife down, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "You sure? You look like you're carrying the world on your shoulders." Malik hesitated, then blurted, "Why's everyone still acting like I'm a liar? You showed up. You told them the truth. But they're still laughing." Jonathan's face softened, but there was a flicker of something else, guilt. Maybe. He pulled out a chair and sat across from Malik, his voice low and steady. "People hold on to their assumptions. Malik, it's easier than admitting they were wrong. You just keep being you, and they'll come around. But what if they don't?" Malik's voice cracked, and he hated how small it sounded. "Ms. Anderson's worse now, like she's mad at me for you being you." Jonathan's jaw tightened, and for a moment, Malik thought he saw anger in his dad's eyes, not at him, but at the world that kept doubting his son. "I'll talk to her," Jonathan said. "Set things straight." "No, don't," Malik said quickly, panic rising. "That'll just make it worse. They'll think I'm some baby who needs his dad to fight his battles." Jonathan nodded, respecting the request, but his expression was troubled. "All right. But you tell me if it gets too much." "Okay. We're a team, you and me." Malik wanted to believe it, but the truth was, his dad didn't feel like part of the team lately. Jonathan had been working late every night since Parents' Day, coming home after Malik was already in bed, leaving before breakfast. Malik had overheard him on the phone once, his voice clipped and urgent. "We need to lock this down now. No leaks, no excuses. It was about work." Malik knew something big at the Pentagon, but the secrecy made him feel like an outsider in his own house. The next day at school, Ms. Anderson was in rare form. She swept into the classroom, her heels clicking against the floor, her tablet glowing with the day's lesson plan. "Good morning, class," she said, her voice bright but brittle. "Today, we're discussing critical thinking. Malik, perhaps you'd like to start us off. Define evidence for us." Malik froze, his heart pounding. She'd been doing this all week, singling him out, piling on questions like she was testing his worth. He swallowed hard, his mind racing. Evidences, proof that something's true, like facts or data. Ms. Anderson's lips pursed, her eyes narrowing. That's a start, but it's vague. Care to elaborate? Or is that too much to ask? The class snickered, and Malik felt heat creep up his neck. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Tyler leaned over to his friend, whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. Guess Pentagon kids got no evidence for brains. Either. Enough. Ms. Anderson said, but her tone lacked conviction, like she was secretly pleased. She moved on to another student, leaving Malik to sink lower in his seat. His hands clenched under the desk. Ethan caught up with him in the hallway after class, his backpack slung over one shoulder. Man, she's got it out for you. What's her deal, dunno? Malik said, his voice flat. Maybe she's pissed 'cause my dad made her look stupid. Ethan snorted. Good, she deserves it. But, you okay? You're acting all weird. Malik wanted to tell Ethan the truth that he wasn't okay, that he felt like he was shrinking every day, that he was scared his dad's job was pulling him away, but Ethan had his own problems. His dad's unemployment was hitting their family hard, and Malik didn't want to add to the burden. I'm fine, he lied, forcing a smile. Just gotta deal with it. That evening, Malik found his dad in his home office, a small room off the living room with a locked door Malik was never allowed to open. Jonathan was hunched over his laptop, the screen casting a blue glow across his face. Papers were scattered across the desk, covered in charts and codes Malik didn't understand. The air was heavy with the hum of the computer and the faint buzz of Jonathan's phone, which had been going off all night. Malik knocked softly, his stomach twisting. Dad. Jonathan looked up, startled, then softened. Hey, Malik, what's up? Can I ask you something? Malik stepped inside, his sneakers silent on the carpet. About your job. Jonathan's expression shifted, cautious but warm. Sure. Champ. What do you want to know? Malik hesitated, then blurted, Is it dangerous? Like, what you do at the Pentagon, 'cause you're always so busy, and I saw your phone. That message about a leak or something. Jonathan's eyes narrowed, and Malik regretted saying anything. He braced for a lecture, but instead, his dad sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. You're too smart for your own good. You know that Malik didn't smile. Just tell me. Dad, please. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, choosing his words carefully. My job's about keeping systems safe. Government systems. The kind that hold sensitive information. Right now, we're dealing with a problem. Someone got into our network, stole some data. It's serious, but I'm handling it. Is that why you're never home? Malik's voice was small, but it carried the weight of days spent feeling alone. Jonathan's face fell, and for a moment, he looked like he'd been punched. I'm trying. Malik, this job, it's not just about me. It's about keeping people safe, including you and Mom. But I'm here now. Okay. Malik nodded, but the knot in his chest didn't loosen. He wanted to believe his dad. but the truth felt slippery, like it was always just out of reach. The next morning, Malik woke to the sound of his dad's voice, low and urgent, coming from the kitchen. He crept downstairs, pausing on the last step. Jonathan was on the phone, his back to the door, his words sharp and clipped. "I don't care how sophisticated the breach is," he said. "We need to trace it now. If this gets out, it's not just my team at risk. It's our families, mine included." Malik's blood ran cold. Families. Mine included. He thought of the message he'd glimpsed on his dad's phone a few nights ago, the one that had made Jonathan's face go hard. "Your family's next if you don't back off." He'd tried to convince himself it was nothing, just work stress. But now, standing in the dim morning light, he wasn't so sure. Jonathan ended the call and turned, spotting Malik. His expression softened, but not before Malik saw the worry in his eyes. "Morning, champ. You're up early." "Was that about the leak?" Malik asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jonathan hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. But it's under control. You don't need to worry." Malik wanted to argue, to demand the truth. But the look on his dad's face stopped him. It wasn't just worry, it was fear, the kind Malik had never seen in his dad before. He nodded, pretending to believe the lie, and headed back upstairs to get ready for school. At Jefferson, the day dragged on like a bad dream. Anderson was relentless, piling on assignments and zeroing in on Malik like a shark smelling blood. During English, she handed back their essays, dropping Malik's on his desk with a tight smile. C-, Malik. I expected more effort. Perhaps you should focus on facts, not fantasies. Malik stared at the red ink scrawled across his paper. His essay about his dad's job marked up with comments like unrealistic and lacking evidence. He'd poured his heart into it, trying to explain what cybersecurity meant. But Ms. Anderson had twisted it into another chance to humiliate him. "Dude, that's bullshit," Ethan whispered, leaning over. "She's got it out for you." Malik didn't respond. He felt like he was suffocating, the weight of doubt pressing down from every side. Tyler's taunts, Ms. Anderson's cold stares, his dad's secrecy. It was too much. By the time the final bell rang, he was ready to bolt, but Ms. Anderson called him back as the other kids filed out. "Malik," she said, her voice syrupy but sharp, "I'm concerned about your performance. If you're struggling, perhaps we can arrange extra help. Unless, of course, you're too busy dreaming up pentagon stories." Something snapped inside him. Malik's hands clenched, and before he could stop himself, the words poured out. "Why don't you ever believe me? Is it 'cause I'm not like Tyler? 'Cause my dad's not some rich guy in a fancy suit?" Ms. Anderson's eyes widened, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. For a moment, Malik thought she might apologize, but instead, she straightened, her voice icy. "That's enough. Malik, go to the principal's office. Now." Malik grabbed his backpack and stormed out, his heart pounding so hard he could barely hear the chatter in the hallway. He didn't go to the principal's office. Instead, he ducked into the bathroom, locked himself in a stall, and let the tears come. They burned his cheeks, hot and angry, each one a reminder of how alone he felt. Outside, the world kept moving, kids laughing, teachers talking, the hum of a normal school day. But inside that stall, Malik was trapped, caught between the truth he knew and the doubt that wouldn't let him go. And somewhere, in the back of his mind, his dad's words from Parents' Day echoed. Blind spots are dangerous. He just didn't know how dangerous they could be. The computer lab at Jefferson Academy smelled like old plastic and dust. The kind of place where time seemed to stand still. Malik Carter hunched over a clunky PC in the corner, the screen's blue glow casting shadows across his face. The hum of cooling fans was the only sound, a steady drone that drowned out the chaos in his head. It had been a week since he'd snapped at Miss Anderson, a week since he'd locked himself in a bathroom stall and let the weight of doubt spill out in tears. He'd been dodging her class ever since, slipping into the library or hiding in the bleachers. But the sting of her words, too busy dreaming up pentagon stories, still burned. Yo, Malik, you coding or just zoning out? Mrs. Thompson's voice cut through the quiet, sharp but kind. The school counselor stood at the front of the lab, her gray curls bouncing as she adjusted a projector. She was a short woman with a knack for seeing through bullshit, and she'd dragged Malik into this after-school coding club after catching him sulking in the hallway. "You've got brains, kid," she'd said. "Use 'em for something other than brooding." Malik shrugged, his fingers hovering over the keyboard, trying to figure this out. Mrs. Thompson gave him a look, one eyebrow raised. "Well, figure faster. We're building a network monitor today. Start with a loop to track data packets. You got this." Malik nodded, but his mind wasn't on loops or data packets. It was on his dad, Jonathan Carter, and the phone call he'd overheard last week, the one about a data breach at the Pentagon, about their family being at risk. The message he'd glimpsed on Jonathan's phone still haunted him. "Your family's next if you don't back off." He'd kept it to himself, too scared to ask, too proud to admit he was scared. But the coding club felt like a lifeline, a chance to understand the world his dad lived in, maybe even prove he wasn't just some kid who didn't belong. He glanced around the lab, taking in the other students. There were only 5 of them, a ragtag group of misfits who didn't fit Jefferson's polished mold. At the station next to him, Lila Green was typing like her life depended on it, her ponytail swinging with each keystroke. Lila was a senator's daughter, part of Tyler Whitman's elite crew, with clothes that screamed money and a confidence that made Malik feel small. But she'd been different lately, ever since Parents' Day when his dad had shut down Ms. Anderson's doubts. Yesterday, she'd passed him a note in the lab. "Ms. Anderson's a jerk. You didn't deserve that." It was the first time anyone besides Ethan had reached out, and it stuck with him. "Hey, Malik," Lila said, not looking up from her screen. "You stuck on that loop. I can show you a shortcut." Malik blinked, caught off guard. Yeah, sure." She leaned over, her fingers darting across his keyboard to type a line of code. "Here, use a for loop with a counter. Makes it clean. Run it." Malik hit enter, and the program spat out a neat list of numbers, exactly as it should. A small grin broke through his guard. The first real one in days. "Nice. Thanks." Lila, no prob, she said, leaning back. I thought you were full of it about your dad. You know. But after he showed up, damn. That was cool. Sorry I didn't say anything before. Her honesty hit him like a punch. But it wasn't mean. It was real. It's cool, Malik said, his voice low. Most people don't get it. Lila nodded, her eyes flicking to her screen. Yeah, my dad's always on some podium, acting like a saint. But at home, he's on my case 24/7. Be perfect. Lila. It's exhausting. Malik studied her, seeing the tension in her jaw, the way her fingers gripped the mouse. She was like him, in a way carrying a weight nobody saw. That sucks, he said. Guess we're both trying to prove something. She smirked, a spark in her eyes. Guess so. Let's not suck at this coding thing. Though. Malik laughed, the sound surprising him. For a moment, the lab didn't feel so lonely. At home, the air was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Malik's mom, Sarah Carter, was in the kitchen, chopping onions with a vengeance, her journalist's notebook open on the counter, scribbled with ideas for her next article. She'd always been his safe haven, the one who listened when his dad was too deep in Pentagon secrets. But tonight, her eyes were puffy, like she'd been arguing or crying. Maybe both. Hey, kiddo, Sarah said, forcing a smile as Malik grabbed a soda from the fridge. Coding club go okay? Yeah, Malik said, popping the can. Made a program work. It was kinda dope. Her smile widened, genuine this time. That's my boy. You're gonna be hacking the CIA soon. Malik snorted, but the joke didn't land. His mind was on his dad, locked in his office again. The door cracked just enough to hear his voice low, urgent, on another call. We've got a lead on the server, but it's encrypted. I need results by tomorrow. Malik's stomach twisted. The breach, the threat, the secrets, it was all still there, looming like a shadow. Sarah followed his gaze, her smile fading. Your dad's under a lot of pressure. Malik. Something's going on at work, but he's keeping it close to the chest. Why's he always like that? Malik asked, his voice sharper than he meant. He says we're a team, but he never tells me anything. Sarah sighed, wiping her hands on a dish towel. He thinks he's protecting us, but I'm working on him. Okay, we'll get through this. Malik nodded, but the knot in his chest didn't loosen. He headed upstairs, his soda forgotten on the counter. The coding club had given him a spark, a tiny piece of control in a world that kept pushing him down. Maybe he could use it to figure out what his dad was hiding, to prove he wasn't just a kid in the way. The next day at the coding club, Malik was all in. Mrs. Thompson had tasked them with building a program to detect network anomalies, basic stuff, but it hit close to home. Malik's dad spent his days hunting digital threats, and now Malik was learning the same game. He opened his coding software, his fingers moving with purpose, tweaking lines of code to make the program sharper, faster. Lila slid into the seat beside him, her laptop already open. You're on fire today, she said, grinning. What's the deal? Just want to get this right, Malik said, his eyes on the screen. My dad's job is all about this stuff. I need to understand it. Lila's grin faded, replaced by curiosity. Your dad's, like, a cyber spy or something, right? That's gotta be intense. Kinda, Malik said, his voice low. But it's not all cool. He's always gone. And I think something's wrong. Like, really wrong. Lila leaned closer, her voice dropping. Wrong how Malik hesitated, then let it out. I saw a message on his phone, something about a leak at the Pentagon, and our family being in danger. I haven't told anyone, but it's freaking me out. Lila's eyes widened. Holy crap. Malik, that's no joke. You gotta tell someone, your mom, your dad, somebody. I can't, Malik said, his voice firm. Not yet. They'll think I'm making it up, or they'll shut me out again. But maybe I can figure it out. With this. He nodded at the computer. Lila bit her lip, then nodded. Okay, but you're not doing this alone. I'm in. What's the plan? Malik's jaw dropped. You serious? Yeah, she said, her smile fierce. We're a team now, right? Plus, I'm not letting you hog all the hero crap. Malik grinned, the spark in his chest flaring brighter. Deal. That night, dinner was a tightrope walk. Sarah had dragged Jonathan to the table, but the air crackled with tension. Malik poked at his spaghetti, watching his parents trade careful glances, like they were dodging landmines. Coding club's going well. Huh, Sarah said, her voice too bright. Malik's killing it with those programs. Jonathan looked up, a tired smile breaking through. That's so. What's the latest? Champ just. Network stuff, Malik said, avoiding his dad's eyes. Monitoring data, catching weird activity. Like what you do. Jonathan's smile faltered, his eyes narrowing. That's great, but don't dive too deep. Okay. That stuff's tricky. Malik's fork froze, his frustration bubbling up. Why not? You never tell me anything about your job. How am I supposed to learn if you keep me in the dark? Sarah's hand tensed on her glass, her eyes flicking to Jonathan. Malik, your dad's just no. Let him talk, Jonathan said, his voice calm but strained. What's eating you? Malik's heart pounded, but he couldn't hold back. I know about the breach. I heard you on the phone, talking about our family being at risk. Why won't you tell me what's going on? I'm not some dumb kid. Jonathan's face went still, and Sarah's eyes widened. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice sharp. Jonathan sighed, rubbing his temples. Malik, you're not dumb. You're too damn smart. And that's the problem. There's a situation at work, a data breach. Serious enough to involve families like ours. But I'm handling it. You don't need to carry this. Don't need to. That's not good enough, Malik snapped, shoving his plate away. You say we're a team, but you're never here. I'm sick of it. He stormed upstairs, his bedroom door slamming behind him. Downstairs, his parents' voices rose, Sarah's sharp, Jonathan's measured but defensive. Malik threw himself onto his bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind a mess. The coding club, Lila's offer, the program he'd been tweaking it, was all he had left. A way to fight back, to prove he wasn't invisible.
He grabbed his laptop, opening the network monitor he'd built. Mrs. Thompson's challenge had been simple, but Malik had pushed it further, adding filters to catch hidden data streams. He ran it against a dummy network, and then, on a whim, he pointed it at the school's system. The screen flickered, and a red alert popped up. Unusual activity detected. Source system admin. Malik's breath caught. The file wasn't part of the school's normal traffic. It was sending data small, encrypted packets to an unknown server, time-stamped for after hours when the school was empty. His hands shook as he saved the file to a USB drive. This wasn't a glitch. It was real. Maybe even the breach his dad was chasing. Malik didn't know what it meant, but he knew one thing: he wasn't alone anymore. He had Lila, Ethan, and a spark that was starting to feel like fire. Whatever this was, he was going to face it head-on. The computer lab at Jefferson Academy was a ghost town after hours. The only sound, the faint buzz of fluorescent lights and the clatter of Malik Carter's fingers on the keyboard. It was late, past 6, and the coding club had long since wrapped up. But Malik hadn't left. He couldn't. Not after what he'd found yesterday, a hidden file in the school's network, sending data to some unknown server in the dead of night. It wasn't just a glitch. It was something real. Something tied to the leak his dad, Jonathan Carter, was chasing at the Pentagon. Malik's heart pounded as he dug deeper, his eyes burning from staring at the screen. He was in over his head, but stopping wasn't an option. "Malik, you still here?" Mrs. Thompson's voice jolted him out of his focus. The counselor stood in the doorway, her gray curls catching the light, a concerned frown creasing her face. "It's late. Kid, your mom's probably worried." Malik minimized the window on his screen, his hands shaky. "Just finishing something. I'll head out soon." Mrs. Thompson studied him, her eyes narrowing. "You've been glued to that computer all week. Something going on." "Nah, I'm good," Malik lied, forcing a smile. He couldn't tell her not yet, not until he was sure what he'd found. The file was like a puzzle, and every piece he uncovered made his gut twist tighter. Data packets with encrypted headers, timestamps that didn't match any school activity, and a destination address that looked foreign, maybe even dangerous. It was the kind of thing his dad dealt with, not a 10-year-old kid. But Malik wasn't just any kid. He was done being doubted. "All right," Mrs. Thompson said, unconvinced. "But don't stay too late. And call your mom." "Okay." Malik nodded, waiting until her footsteps faded down the hall before opening the file again. His fingers hesitated over the keys. What if this is real, he thought. What if it's connected to that message on Dad's phone? The words still haunted him. "Your family's next if you don't back off." He pushed the fear down, focusing on the code. He had to know. The next morning, Malik dragged himself to school, his eyes heavy from a night of coding and nightmares. The hallways of Jefferson Academy were as polished as ever, but they felt like a maze, each corner hiding another jab from Tyler Whitman or a cold glance from Ms. Anderson. The spark he'd found in the coding club was still there, but it was flickering, threatened by the weight of everything else. In English class, Ms. Anderson was in her element, pacing the front of the room with her tablet, her voice sharp as she announced a new group project. "You'll be working in teams of 4 to analyze a novel," she said, her eyes sweeping the class. "I've assigned the groups to ensure collaboration." Malik's stomach sank as she read the list.
Tyler Whitman, Sophia Green, Lila Green, and Malik Carter. Tyler groaned loudly, slumping in his chair. Great. Stuck with Pentagon, kid. We're screwed. The class snickered, and Malik's face burned. He glanced at Lila, hoping for backup, but she looked away, her cheeks pink. She'd been cool in the coding club, but here, in front of Tyler and Sophia, she was silent. Malik couldn't blame her. She had her own battles, with a senator dad who expected perfection, but it still stung. Miss Anderson clapped her hands. Enough chatter. Get to your groups and start planning. Malik dragged his chair to Tyler's table, his backpack feeling like it weighed a ton. Tyler leaned back, smirking. So, what? You gonna write about your dad's fake Pentagon job? 'Cause that's not in the book. Shut up, Tyler, Malik muttered, his hands clenching. I'm here to work. Yeah. Right, Tyler said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. You'll probably just mess it up like everything else. Lila finally spoke, her voice quiet. Can we just start? We've got a deadline. Tyler rolled his eyes but opened his book, and for a moment, Malik thought they might actually get somewhere. But as they discussed the project, Tyler ignored every idea Malik offered, talking over him like he wasn't there. Sophia followed Tyler's lead, and Lila stayed neutral, her eyes fixed on her notebook. Malik's frustration grew with every word, a tight coil in his chest ready to snap. By the end of class, their group had nothing but a half-page of notes, all Tyler's ideas. Ms. Anderson collected their work, her lips pursing as she glanced at Malik. I expect better next time. Malik, a group project requires everyone to pull their weight. Malik's jaw dropped. But I tried. Tyler wouldn't. That's enough. Ms. Anderson cut him off, her voice icy. Excuses won't help your grade. Tyler smirked, and Malik felt the coil snap. He grabbed his backpack and stormed out, ignoring Ms. Anderson's call to come back. He didn't care about detention or grades anymore. All he could think about was the unfairness of it all, Tyler's taunts, Lila's silence, Ms. Anderson's refusal to see him. He was tired of fighting a battle he couldn't win. At home, the tension was thicker than ever. Malik found his mom, Sarah, in her office, surrounded by stacks of papers and a laptop glowing with her latest article. She was a freelance journalist, always chasing stories about injustice, but tonight, her eyes were red-rimmed, like she'd been crying. Mom, Malik said, pausing in the doorway. You okay? Sarah looked up, forcing a smile. Just a tough day. Kiddo. How about you? How's school? Malik shrugged, dropping his backpack. Same old crap. Ms. Anderson put me in a group with Tyler, and he's making it impossible. She blamed me when we didn't get anything done. Sarah's face hardened. That's not right. I'm calling the school tomorrow. This has gone on long enough. No. Mom, don't, Malik said, panic rising. It'll just make it worse. I can handle it. Sarah sighed, rubbing her temples. You shouldn't have to handle it. Malik, you're 10. This is on them, not you. Before Malik could respond, Jonathan appeared in the doorway, his suit jacket slung over one arm, his face etched with exhaustion. What's going on? He asked, his voice low. Sarah turned on him, her voice sharp. Your son's being targeted at school. Jonathan, That teacher Anderson, she's got it out for him. And you're too busy with your damn pentagon crisis to notice." Jonathan's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone even. "I'm doing what I can. Sarah, this breach is—" "I don't care about the breach," Sarah snapped, standing. "Our son is falling apart. And you're not here. He needs you, not some classified excuse." Malik's chest ached, guilt washing over him. He didn't want them fighting, not because of him. "It's fine," he said, his voice small. "I'm fine. Jonathan looked at him, his eyes softening. "You're not fine, champ. And I'm sorry I haven't been around. But it's bigger than us. I'm trying to keep you safe. Safe from what Malik demanded," his voice rising. "That message on your phone, the one about our family. I'm not stupid. Dad, I know something's wrong." Jonathan's face went still, and for a moment, the room was silent. Sarah's eyes widened. "What message?" Jonathan sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "It's under control. Malik, you don't need to worry." But Malik was done with half answers. He turned and ran upstairs, slamming his bedroom door. He threw himself onto his bed, his mind racing. The file on the school's network, the message on his dad's phone, the way everything was falling apart. It was all connected. He just didn't know how. The next day at the coding club, Malik was a storm of determination. He opened the suspicious file again, his fingers trembling as he traced the data packets. Lila slid into the seat next to him, her eyes wide with concern. "You look like hell," she said, keeping her voice low. "Did you sleep at all?" "Barely," Malik admitted, his eyes on the screen. "This file, it's sending data somewhere outside the school. I think it's tied to the leak my dad's working on." Lila's jaw dropped. "Malik, that's huge. You gotta tell Mrs. Thompson. Or your dad." "Not yet," Malik said, his voice firm. "I need proof. If I'm wrong, they'll just think I'm making it up again." Lila hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. I'm in. What do we do?" Malik showed her the code, explaining the patterns he'd found. Together, they traced the data to a server address that looked like it was overseas. The more they dug, the clearer it became. This wasn't a school prank. It was a hack, sophisticated and deliberate, targeting Jefferson's network. As they worked, Mrs. Thompson approached, her arms crossed. "You two are awfully focused. What's going on?" Malik's heart skipped, but Lila jumped in, smooth as silk, "Just tweaking our network monitor. Mrs. T. Malik's got this cool idea for catching glitches." Mrs. Thompson raised an eyebrow but nodded. "All right. Keep it up, but don't break anything." When she walked away, Malik let out a breath. "Thanks, Lila." "No problem," she said, but her eyes were serious. "Malik, this is getting scary. If this is real, we're way out of our league." "I know," Malik said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at him. "But I can't stop now." That night, Malik couldn't sleep. He sat at his desk, his laptop open, the file's code glowing on the screen. He'd copied it onto a USB drive, just in case. But the weight of what he'd found was crushing him. This wasn't just about proving himself anymore. It was about his family, his dad's job. maybe even their safety. Downstairs, he heard his parents arguing again, their voices muffled but sharp. "You're putting us at risk." "Jonathan," Sarah said, "if this breach is targeting families, we deserve to know." "I'm handling it," Jonathan replied, his voice tight. "But I need you to trust me." Malik's hands clenched. Trust. The word felt hollow after weeks of doubt from Ms. Anderson, from Tyler, even from his own parents. He opened his laptop and started coding, tweaking the network monitor to track the file's activity in real time. Hours passed, the house growing quiet. But Malik didn't stop. He was close to something big. Then, just past midnight, his screen flashed. A new data packet, larger than the others, was being sent. Malik traced it, his heart pounding, and found a name embedded in the code: O'Reilly, the school's maintenance guy. A quiet man with a limp who always seemed to be around, fixing lights or mopping floors. Malik's blood ran cold. O'Reilly wasn't just a janitor. He was part of this. Malik's fingers hovered over the keyboard, his mind racing. He could tell his dad, or Mrs. Thompson, or even Lila. But what if they didn't believe him? What if they thought he was just a kid playing detective? No. He needed more proof. Something undeniable. He opened a new window and started hacking into O'Reilly's school email, his hands shaking with adrenaline. It was risky, maybe even stupid. But Malik didn't care. He was done being the kid nobody believed. Whatever O'Reilly was hiding, Malik was going to find it, even if it meant crossing a line he couldn't come back from. The glow of Malik Carter's laptop screen cast harsh shadows across his bedroom, the only light in the house at 2 a.m. His eyes burned, his fingers ached, but he couldn't stop. Not now. Not after breaking into O'Reilly's school email account. The maintenance guy he was sure was tied to the suspicious file he'd found on Jefferson Academy's network. The code he'd traced the data packets siphoning information to some foreign server had led him here, to a digital trail that felt like a ticking bomb. Malik's heart pounded as he scrolled through O'Reilly's inbox, each click a step deeper into a world he wasn't supposed to see. Most of the emails were mundane work orders for fixing lights, schedules for cleaning the gym, but then he found a message buried in the deleted folder, sent from an account labeled JAdmin. The subject line was blank, but the body contained a single line: "Install the package by 2300. Target, Carter." Malik's breath caught. Carter, his family, his dad. This wasn't just a school hack. It was personal. He opened the attached file, a compressed archive filled with code. His coding club skills weren't enough to crack it fully, but he recognized enough to know it was bad malware, designed to scrape data from connected devices. And the sender's email. It wasn't some random hacker. It was from Ms. Anderson's school account. Malik's stomach dropped. No way. Not her. He leaned back in his chair, the room spinning. Ms. Anderson, with her perfect hair and patronizing smiles, had been his enemy since the start, doubting his dad's job, piling on unfair grades. But a hacker. It didn't add up. He needed help, and he needed it now. The next morning, Malik barely made it through breakfast, his mind racing. His mom, Sarah, was at the kitchen counter, sipping coffee and typing on her laptop.
her journalist's instincts on high alert after last night's argument with Jonathan. His dad was already gone, off to the Pentagon before dawn, leaving a note on the fridge back late. Stay safe. Champ. Malik wanted to tell Sarah about the email, but the words stuck in his throat. What if she didn't believe him? What if he was wrong? At school. Malik found Lila Green in the hallway before first period, her ponytail swinging as she juggled a stack of books. "Lila," he whispered, pulling her aside. "I need you. Now." She raised an eyebrow, catching the urgency in his voice. "What's up? You look like you saw a ghost." "Not here," Malik said, glancing around. "Computer lab. Lunch period." Lila nodded, her eyes serious. "Okay. I'm in." The morning dragged, each class a blur of noise and tension. Ms. Anderson was in English, her voice sharp as she lectured about symbolism. But Malik couldn't focus. He kept seeing that email in his mind, the word Carter burning like a brand. When the lunch bell rang, he bolted to the computer lab, where Lila was already waiting, Ethan Williams trailing behind her. "Dude, what's the deal?" Ethan asked, his red hair a mess. Lila said, "You're freaking out." Malik locked the lab door, his hands trembling. "I hacked O'Reilly's email last night. Found something bad, a file sent from Miss Anderson's account, telling him to install malware. It's targeting my family." Lila's jaw dropped. "Miss Anderson? No way. She's a jerk, but a hacker. That's nuts." Ethan whistled. "Damn. Malik, you're playing with fire. You sure it's her, no?" Malik admitted, opening his laptop. "That's why I need you guys. Look at this." He showed them the email, the code, the server address. Lila leaned in, her coding skills sharper than Malik's, and started dissecting the file. Ethan watched, his usual grin replaced by a frown. "This is some serious shit," he said. "If this is real, we're talking like FBI-level stuff." "It's real," Malik said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at him. "My dad's been working on a data breach at the Pentagon. I think this is part of it." Lila's fingers paused on the keyboard. "Okay, but Ms. Anderson, she can barely use the smartboard. Someone could have used her account." "Right." Malik nodded, a spark of hope flaring. "That's what I'm thinking. We need to trace the email's source. If it's not her, we prove it. If it is..." He didn't finish the sentence. They worked through lunch, the lab's hum of computers drowning out the cafeteria noise outside. Lila cracked the email's metadata, revealing an IP address that didn't match the school's network. "It's a spoof," she said, her voice triumphant. "Someone faked Ms. Anderson's account to send this. O'Reilly's the real problem." Malik's relief was short-lived. "But why target my family? And how's O'Reilly doing this?" Ethan leaned back, his eyes wide. "Maybe he's not just a janitor. Like, what if he's some kind of spy or something?" Malik wanted to laugh, but the thought wasn't funny anymore. He copied the evidence onto a USB drive and closed his laptop. "We need to tell Mrs. Thompson. She'll know what to do." Mrs. Thompson's office was a cramped space filled with inspirational posters and a coffee mug that said, "World's okayest counselor, Malik,
Lila, and Ethan crowded in, the USB drive burning a hole in Malik's pocket. Mrs. Thompson listened as Malik explained everything: the file, the email, O'Reilly's involvement, her frown deepening with every word. "Malik, this is serious," she said, her voice low. "You should have come to me sooner. Hacking into someone's email, even with good intentions, could get you in big trouble." "I know," Malik said, his cheeks hot. "But I had to be sure. Nobody believes me when I say stuff's wrong." Mrs. Thompson's expression softened. "I believe you. And you did good work. All three of you. I'm calling your dad, Malik. He needs to see this." Malik's stomach twisted, but he nodded. He'd wanted to solve this himself, to prove he wasn't just a kid. But the truth was bigger than him, and deep down, he wanted his dad's help. Jonathan arrived at the school an hour later, his suit rumpled, his face a mask of controlled urgency. He sat in Mrs. Thompson's office, Malik and Lila beside him. As Mrs. Thompson showed him the USB drive's contents, Jonathan's eyes scanned the screen, his jaw tightening as he read the email, the code, the server address. "This is it," he said, his voice low. "The same signature as the Pentagon breach. O'Reilly's been using the school's network as a backdoor to target government families, including ours." Malik's heart skipped. "So it's not Ms. Anderson?" Jonathan shook his head. "No. Her account was compromised. She's a victim here, not a culprit." Lila let out a breath. "Thank God. I mean, she's awful. But I didn't want her to be that awful." Jonathan's gaze softened as he looked at Malik. "You did good, champ. This could have gone unnoticed for months, but you should have told me sooner. This is dangerous stuff." Malik looked down, guilt and pride warring inside him. "I just wanted to prove I could do it, that I wasn't making it up." Jonathan put a hand on his shoulder, his grip firm but warm. "You proved it, and I'm proud of you. But from now on, we do this together." "Okay," Malik nodded, a lump in his throat. For the first time in weeks, he felt like part of a team again. The school was a whirlwind of activity by afternoon. Jonathan had called in a Pentagon cybersecurity team who swept the network and confirmed O'Reilly's involvement. The maintenance man was gone, fled, according to the principal, who'd found his locker empty and his work truck abandoned. A police report was filed, and the FBI was notified, their agents already tracking O'Reilly's last known movements. Malik watched it all from the sidelines, his mind reeling. He'd uncovered a real threat, but the victory felt hollow. O'Reilly was still out there, and the danger wasn't over. That evening, Mrs. Thompson called an emergency meeting in the principal's office. Malik, Jonathan, Sarah, and Miss Anderson sat around a conference table, the air thick with tension. Miss Anderson looked smaller than usual, her hands clasped tightly, her face pale. She'd been briefed on the hack, on how her account was used to frame her, and the reality had shaken her. "Malik," she said, her voice trembling, "I owe you an apology. I judged you unfairly. From the moment you mentioned your father's job, I assumed you were exaggerating because you didn't fit my idea of a Pentagon kid. I was wrong, and I'm sorry." Malik stared at her, searching for the smug teacher who'd made his life hell. She was gone,
replaced by someone raw, almost fragile. He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to stay angry, to throw her words back in her face, but another part saw the truth in her eyes, regret, real and heavy. "It's okay," he said finally, his voice soft. "I just wanted you to believe me." Ms. Anderson nodded, her eyes glistening. "I do now, and I'm going to do better. I've asked Principal Hayes for diversity training, for me and the whole faculty. This can't happen again." Sarah reached for Malik's hand, squeezing it. "Thank you, Ms. Anderson. That's a start." Jonathan cleared his throat, his voice steady but firm. "This isn't just about one teacher. It's about a system that lets kids like Malik be doubted because of who they are. We need real change, not just promises." Principal Hayes, who'd been silent, nodded. "We're on it. Mr. Carter, new protocols, training, the works. Malik's shown us where we failed, and we're listening." Malik felt a warmth in his chest. Not pride, but something deeper hope. He'd done more than find a hack. He'd made them see him, really see him, for the first time. That night, the Carter house was quiet, a rare moment of peace. Malik sat on the couch, his laptop closed for once, while Sarah made hot chocolate in the kitchen. Jonathan joined them, his tie loosened, his face less guarded than usual. He handed Malik a mug, then sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "We need to talk," Jonathan said, his voice low, "about what happened today, and about my job." Malik's heart skipped, but he nodded, clutching the mug. "Okay." Jonathan took a deep breath. "I've kept you in the dark because I thought it would protect you. My work's cybersecurity. It's not just about code. It's about stopping people who want to hurt our country, our families. This breach, it targeted us because of me. I'm sorry. Malik, I should have been more open." Malik's eyes stung, but he blinked hard, refusing to cry. "It's not your fault. Dad, I wanted to help. To be like you." Jonathan's face softened, a rare smile breaking through. "You're already better than me. Champ. What you did today, finding that hack, saving who knows how many people, that's real courage. But you don't have to carry this alone. We're a team. Remember, Sarah joined them, her own mug steaming, and wrapped an arm around Malik. He's right, kiddo. You're stuck with us, whether you like it or not." Malik laughed, the sound surprising him. For the first time in weeks, the weight on his chest felt lighter, like he could breathe again. The danger wasn't gone. O'Reilly was still out there, and his dad's job would always bring risks, but he wasn't alone anymore. He had his parents, Lila, Ethan, even Mrs. Thompson, and he had himself, a kid who'd faced doubt and won. As he sipped his hot chocolate, Malik glanced at his laptop, the USB drive still plugged in. The truth was out, but the fight wasn't over. Not yet. The gymnasium at Jefferson Academy was a riot of color and sound, transformed for the annual spring showcase into a maze of student projects and proud parents. Banners hung from the rafters, balloons bobbed above tables, and the air smelled of popcorn and nervous excitement. Malik Carter stood at his booth, a simple folding table covered with a hand-drawn poster that read,
Unseen truths, how assumptions hurt, how technology helps. His laptop displayed the slideshow of code snippets and network diagrams, a testament to the months he'd spent unraveling a real-world hack that had shaken his school and his family. At 10 years old, Malik was no stranger to doubt. But today, he felt something new: confidence, fragile but fierce, burning in his chest. "Nice setup, dude," Ethan Williams said, sidling up with a grin. His red hair was tamed for once, probably thanks to his mom, who was chatting with other parents nearby. "You're gonna blow 'em away." Malik adjusted his poster, a nervous smile tugging at his lips. "Hope so. Kinda feels like a big deal." "'Cause it is," Ethan said, punching his shoulder lightly. "You took down a freaking hacker. That's like superhero stuff." Malik laughed, but the weight of the past few months lingered. It had been 3 weeks since he, Lila Green, and Ethan had uncovered O'Reilly's scheme, the maintenance man who'd used a spoofed email from Ms. Anderson's account to install malware on the school's network, targeting families like Malik's for a Pentagon data breach. The FBI was still hunting O'Reilly, but the school's systems were secure now, thanks to Malik's discovery. His dad, Jonathan Carter, had called it a game changer. And for the first time, Malik felt like he'd earned his place not just at Jefferson, but in his dad's world. The gym doors swung open, and Malik's parents walked in. Sarah Carter's journalist notebook tucked under her arm, Jonathan's Pentagon badge clipped to his suit jacket. Sarah's eyes lit up when she saw Malik's booth, and she hurried over, pulling him into a hug. "Look at you, kiddo. This is incredible." Jonathan stood behind her, his smile quieter, but no less proud. "You worked hard, champ. Show 'em what you've got." Malik nodded, his throat tight. He'd spent weeks on this project, pouring everything into it, his anger at being doubted, his fear during the hack, his hope for something better. The slideshow wasn't just about code. It was about assumptions, how they blinded people to the truth, whether it was a kid's story about his dad or a hidden threat in a network. He'd even included a section on Ms. Anderson, though he'd kept it vague, not naming her outright. She'd apologized, after all, and Malik wasn't here to point fingers. He was here to make a point. The showcase kicked off, and the gym buzzed with activity. Parents milled between booths, kids darted through the crowd, and teachers hovered like referees. Malik's booth drew a steady stream of visitors, drawn by the bold title and the promise of a real-life hacking story. He explained his project with a confidence he hadn't known he had, his voice steady as he walked them through the code, the hack, and the lessons he'd learned. "We judge what we don't understand," he said to a group of parents, his eyes meeting theirs, like assuming someone can't do something because of how they look or where they're from, or assuming a system's safe because nobody's caught a problem yet. Doubt creates blind spots, and blind spots can hurt. A woman in a blazer nodded, scribbling notes. "That's powerful. Malik, you're saying assumptions are as dangerous as the hack itself?" "Yeah," Malik said, a spark in his eyes. "If we'd caught the hack sooner, it wouldn't have gotten so bad. But nobody believed a kid could spot something like that." The crowd murmured, impressed, and Malik felt a rush of pride. He glanced at his parents, who were watching from the sidelines, Sarah's smile wide,
Jonathan's nod subtle, but unmistakable. For once, he wasn't the Pentagon kid or the outsider. He was just Malik, and that was enough. As the afternoon wore on, Malik's booth became a focal point. Even Tyler Whitman, the kid who'd mocked him for months, wandered over, his hands stuffed in his pockets. His usual smirk was gone, replaced by an awkward shuffle. "Hey, Malik," Tyler said, his voice low. "Your project's pretty dope. I didn't know you were, like, a coding genius." Malik raised an eyebrow, wary. "Thanks, I guess." Tyler shifted, glancing at the floor. "Look, I was a jerk before. All that stuff about your dad. I'm sorry, man. I didn't get it." Malik studied him, searching for a trick, but Tyler's eyes were sincere, maybe even embarrassed. "It's cool," Malik said finally. "Just don't do it again." Tyler nodded, a small grin breaking through. "Deal. Maybe you can teach me some of that coding stuff sometime." Malik laughed, surprised by how light it felt. "Maybe." Ethan, who'd been eavesdropping, rolled his eyes. "Took you long enough." "Whitman, where was all this when you were acting like a tool?" Tyler flushed, but he didn't argue, just shrugged and wandered off. Malik shook his head, a smile tugging at his lips. Change was slow, but it was happening, one person at a time. Ms. Anderson approached next, her heels clicking softly on the gym floor. She looked different today, less polished, more human, her usual blazer replaced by a simple sweater. She'd been quiet since the meeting in the principal's office, where she'd apologized for her prejudice. But Malik could tell she was trying. She'd started calling on him in class without the edge in her voice, even praising his work once or twice. "Malik," she said, her voice tentative. "Your project is remarkable. I'm proud of you." Malik nodded, unsure how to respond. "Thanks, Ms. Anderson." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "I meant what I said before. I'm learning, and I want to make things right. I've been working with Principal Hayes on a new program, diversity training. Mentorship for students like you. Would you be willing to share your story with the class? It could help others understand. Would you be willing to share your story with the class? It could help others understand." Malik's eyes widened. A month ago, Miss Anderson would have never given him a platform. Part of him wanted to say no, to keep his guard up, but another part saw the chance to make a difference. "I'll think about it," he said. And she smiled, a real one this time. "Thank you," she said, stepping back. "You've taught me a lot." As she walked away, Sarah leaned over, whispering, "You handled that like a pro. Kiddo, I'm so proud." Jonathan nodded, his hand resting on Malik's shoulder. "You're changing things, Malik. That's no small thing." The showcase wound down, but the gym stayed lively, parents lingering to network, kids sneaking extra cookies from the refreshment table. Malik was packing up his booth when Principal Hayes approached, his tie slightly askew, a rare smile on his face. "Malik, Mr. and Mrs. Carter," he said, shaking their hands. "Your project was a highlight today. We've had parents asking about cybersecurity courses.
And your work on assumptions, it's opened eyes. We're implementing changes, new security protocols, inclusivity programs. You've been a catalyst. Malik's cheeks warmed, but he stood taller. Thanks. Principal Hayes, I just wanted people to see the truth. You did more than that, Hayes said. You showed us where we fell short. Keep it up. As Hayes walked away, Sarah pulled out her phone, her journalist's instincts kicking in. I'm pitching an article about this. Malik, not just your project, but the bigger picture how schools like Jefferson need to rethink inclusivity. It's time people listened. Malik grinned, imagining her words in print, reaching beyond the school's walls. Go for it, Mom. Jonathan's phone buzzed, and he stepped aside to take the call, his voice low but urgent. Malik caught Fragment's new breach. Escalation. Priority 1, and his stomach twisted. The danger wasn't over. O'Reilly was still out there, and his dad's job would always bring risks. But when Jonathan returned, his face was calm, his eyes steady. Everything okay? Dad Malik asked, his voice quiet. For now, Jonathan said, ruffling his hair. But I've got a plan. How'd you like to come to a cybersecurity workshop this weekend? See what I do up close? Malik's eyes widened. For real? Like, at the Pentagon? Jonathan chuckled. Not quite. It's a training session, but you'll get the idea, Sarah laughed, nudging Malik. Better watch out. Jonathan, he'll be running your team soon. Malik's grin was unstoppable now, a mix of pride and excitement. He'd always wanted to be like his dad. But now he saw a path coding, cybersecurity, a way to protect people without losing himself. It wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to try. That night, the Carter family drove home under a sky streaked with orange and purple. Malik stared out the window, the familiar streets of their neighborhood passing in a blur. The black SUV that had followed them weeks ago, government security, his dad had explained was gone, replaced by a quieter sense of safety. But Malik knew it wasn't permanent. His dad's work, the world of unseen threats, would always be there, lurking in the shadows. Dad, Malik said, breaking the silence. Is it always going to be like this? The breaches, the secrets. Jonathan glanced at him in the rearview mirror, his expression thoughtful. Not always. We're getting better at stopping them, thanks to people like you. But yeah, it's part of the job. You still want in. Malik thought about it, his mind flashing to the coding club, the showcase, the way his project had made people listen. Yeah, he said finally. I do, but I want to do it my way. Sarah laughed, reaching back to squeeze his hand. That's my boy. You'll be better than both of us. When they pulled into the driveway, Malik paused, looking at the house, its warm lights, the front porch where he'd sat with his dad after tough days. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was a fortress, built on trust and truth, stronger than any hack could break. Inside, Malik headed to his room, his laptop calling to him. He opened it, not to code this time, but to start a journal, typing out the day's events, his thoughts, his dreams. They doubted me, he wrote. They doubted my dad. But we showed them. And we're not done yet. As he saved the file,
Malik glanced out his window at the night sky. The stars faint but steady. The world was big, full of doubts and dangers. But he wasn't afraid anymore. He had his family, his friends, and a spark inside him that no one could dim. Hey, when's the last time you were doubted because of who you are? Drop your story in the comments we're reading. Every one. If Malik's journey hit you in the feels, smash that subscribe button for more stories that dig deep and keep it real. What's next for Malik?